Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. Excited to be here today. I've been gone for a little while. I think since before Thanksgiving. I haven't really been gone, but I just haven't come on the podcast. Don't need to give you excuses, but sometimes we can't fit things into life that we want to. And that's certainly been happening the last few weeks. But I'm here right now, excited to be back. I was actually pondering this a little bit ago, earlier today, and thought, it's amazing I've been as consistent as I have been. So that's where I'm going to leave it for right now because, it is what it is. Can't always get everything done that you'd like to get done. But I am excited to be here because I have some great information to share, things for you to ponder, figure out in your own brain, your own thinking, and see how it can help you in your life. So every once in a while, I find myself in some loop of thinking or some cave that's getting deeper, or thoughts that just automatically come up. Sometimes they're repetitive. Sometimes it's something that might come up every time I think of a goal. And the answer might be, well, that might not work now. Or, yeah, that would be nice. But, there could be things that discourage me from doing it. Or there could be things like that would be great next week. Could be a put off response, or just even ideas with money, of how much money you might be capable of making. I recently spoke to someone and said something about, maybe you could get this kind of job or you could do that. And their immediate response was like, those kinds of things work out for other people, but not for me. And do you have ideas like that? Like, other people are able to do that, but that would never work for me because blah, 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 blah. And it may be true. It's certainly true if you're not pursuing it or if you're not believing in yourself. So there are thoughts that come up automatically. It's just like such a quick response. An example that I'll give you is teenage sons. I don't know if any of you have raised boys or if any of yours are like mine, but I have three boys and three girls. And I noticed a big difference with my boys and my girls. And I used to hear when they were little, like, boys are harder when they're little, but when they're teenagers, they're easier. Or girls are easier. Like there were all these generalizations about boys and girls. And a lot of them were true, but not all of them. But one that I didn't anticipate with boys, because I had four brothers, so I thought I knew what teenage boys were like. It's not like I was home for all of them. I was the second oldest, so I wasn't even at home when three of them were teenagers. But now where am I? I'm looking to see where I am. I have my little camera and hello, I'm right here. But uh but when I had my teenage boys, they went from being children. Obviously, children seem to accept more of what mom says, or love what mom says, or appreciate mom, or all those things. Like, do you ever look at moms of younger children and the kinds of things that they might post on social media? You might think, oh, like that is such a fun stage. It doesn't last. Clearly, in any stage of childhood can change. It doesn't last. But I've noticed with my children that as they become more independent, as they understand themselves as individuals, the rest of the world, they're making more choices on their own. They're not just following mom around like everything mom does is the greatest and the best, like they did when they were little, which being a mom with little children can be hard, but that is a really fun part where mom is so wonderful. In fact, my granddaughter the other day, I asked, I had three of my grandchildren in the car with me, and I said, what do you want for Christmas? And my granddaughter, who is 6, almost 7, was saying she wanted Play Doh, some kind of Play Doh set that I couldn't really understand. And I want a new mommy. And I thought, I've never heard a child say that before. I want a new mommy. And I said, well, I don't know if that's like the nicest, then like that's maybe not a gift that you should ask for because you already have such a wonderful mommy. And she said, I know, I love my mommy so much that if I had two of her, that would be even better, which was super, super cute. That was her idea. She thought it was a compliment to want a new mommy, not not an insult to her mom. But you have that stage where you're kind of the hero person, or you talk to your children, and for the most part, they're listening and they're learning from you, and they trust you. You tell them it's important to look both ways before you cross the street, and they say, "Oh, okay," and whether well. If they have ADHD and they have impulse control, then maybe they aren't listening. But anyway, because I did have one of those at that age that was more like that. But back to that idea that children are more willing to put their mom on a pedestal when they're younger than they are when they're teenagers. And my boys, when they became teenage boys, and this is getting to a point of of our own brains, but I saw this immediate response. It was like when the doctor puts that little thing on your knee and then you have that reflex and your foot just goes up. I can't remember what it's called, but they're testing that reflex in the leg. And as soon as they do it, the reflex is that your foot goes up. And the reflex of my boys, as soon as I started saying something to them, was no, mom. Like literally no, mom. Whether it was in their face, their words, or I physically saw a hand come up. It probably didn't ever happen, but in my mind, it was mom start talking. That's not a good idea. Why is she telling me that? And they like, no, mom. Like, mom, are you crazy? Why would you think that? Like, that's not important, or that's not going to happen, or I don't see why you're giving me that advice, or I don't know why you won't let me do this. And none of them were rejecting me in a bigger way, but in the small and the little things, in the day-to-day things, it was an immediate no, mom. And I've noticed my own brain doing that with myself at times, where I'll start to think of something that is a good idea, or I'll start to think of whatever it is. And I have this immediate response. I have this immediate reaction with a thought that just comes up. And it goes and it breaks the mode of what could be a good thing. And it's different than a distraction. It's just like a very core belief that we have inside is just coming out. It's just coming out. We're just going, nope, 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 nope. Where we just reject this change or this discomfort of doing something different or who knows what. So we find these thoughts that come up that disrupt progress, that disrupt feeling good about yourself or doing better that day or whatever it is. And so if you start to see yourself doing that, or just watch during the day, if you start out with an idea of something you're going to do, and this is different than just our brains forgetting, because that can certainly happen all the time, but just losing any kind of motivation you might have ever had about something. It might not even be a new idea. It might be, okay, I was going to start this on Monday, or I wanted to pursue this, or I want to join this. And then you just come up with some response that stops you in your tracks. And when you see that happening, notice it and decide, do I want to cut myself off constantly? How would I like it if somebody in real life, like a teenage son or a friend or a stranger or anybody, did that every time I had an idea, a desire, or something? How would I like it if they cut me off and rejected me and told me why I wasn't capable of that, why that might work for other people? In other words, I'm not good enough. They're great, but I'm not. A disbelief in possibilities, taking away hope, any of those things. Notice that if it's happening and see if you can stop it. See if you can politely tell yourself, I don't want to stop myself this time. I want to break this pattern. I want to just notice what's happening, noticing in your mind what's happening in your mind. It might sound redundant. It probably does sound redundant, but noticing those patterns, those knee jerk reactions for what they are, and seeing if you can do something to stop it can be really, really powerful. it can help you it can help you actually progress and achieve your dreams, because you may have some dreams, some ideas, some things that you'd like to do, and you're not doing them because day after day, week after week, you're stopping yourself. I wrote down some things. I'm going to see if I can find it. I write down episode ideas sometimes, and this is what I wrote, just my little questions. So, when you find your brain going and this is a little bit different. So some other things to watch in your brain. When you find that your brain is going on a downslope, or your thoughts are going on a downslope, or even just emotionally in your body, and this is just day-to-day activity. It could be sitting in bed, you're not getting out of bed, but it could just be going through your day and all of a sudden feeling not as hopeful, not as happy, not as optimistic, whatever it was. It doesn't even have to be outside sources in the world. It could just be all of a sudden you notice that you're going into this rut of drudgery. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel it could just be, here I am unloading the dishwasher for the 10,000th time, whatever it is. I didn't used to feel that way about unloading the dishwasher. Now I do. Now I do. There are some things that I didn't used to mind doing at all, like grocery shopping. I loved grocery shopping. I don't know, 30 years? I don't know. It's not that it matters. A lot of years. It was one of my favorite things. Now I don't hate it, but I think of it as a waste of time. I think of it as taking away time from something I'd rather be doing. I just don't want to do it. I enjoy it when I actually do it, but in my brain, the automatic thought that comes up is, you could have one more hour of your day if you weren't doing this right now. Is it important to have groceries in my house? Yeah. But at the same time, somehow I found this automatic thought that comes up with grocery shopping, that I put it in a different category. Even with eating, I used to relish eating any chance I got, stop to do it. And I've probably mentioned it before. I was so astounded by my husband's idea that eating took away from his ability to work. It bothered him that he had to stop in the day. It's like you're on a trip and you're driving and you're making really good time, and then you have to stop and get gas. And then, our bodies need that break too. We need to get out and walk around. I don't know if you've gotten to the age yet where you've been driving and your hips hurt and you think, it happened to me quite a while ago. But you start thinking, oh gosh, I got to get out because I, I'm uncomfortable sitting in this seat for this long. And you get up and walk, and it feels good to walk, and that's really nice. So our bodies need a pit stop. We might need the restroom. We might need to buy something to eat or a drink or something like that. And the car needs gas. It needs fuel. It needs to keep going. And our bodies do too. But sometimes it feels like, oh, I could make it there in 6 hours, but I have to stop and get gas. I'm not going to make as good a time. Well, that's part of the journey. And so is buying groceries, unless, you do delivery or something. But even that, I start to think, how much time did I spend making my Kroger order online? How much time am I going to sit? Well, that depends. Am I going to get distracted? Am I going to read every review? What am I going to do with this? And even in the grocery store, you could run in and run out real fast, or you can make it more fun. So there's all of these things that your brain might automatically go somewhere. And it might be different. It might be different than what you used to think. And noticing that and seeing, am I happy with my brain going there? Is it leading me to good things? Might I be happier telling myself it's okay to go to the grocery store every once in a while? In fact, I will schedule it in my week and not even think of it as a time waster. Or I might partner it with something that I really enjoy. Like when I used to, if I does Kmart even exist anymore? When I used to take my kids to Kmart long ago, we lived in a little town in Northern California, up in the redwoods. I've lived in a lot of redwoods places, but this is the farthest north. They had a brand new Kmart, and which is the best kind of Kmart to go into if you had to go to a Kmart. But it was a brand new Kmart, and it was hard to keep all my kids happy. And I grew up with my mom buying groceries. So we were in a little town. We only had one store. It was, well, there were two grocery stores, but it was the big chain. It was the nicer one. And I almost hesitate saying that because one of the girls in my grade, one of my friends' parents owned the other grocery store, but it was a smaller one, independently owned. Probably didn't have as good of deals, but some people were Star Super people and some people were Safeway people. And our family was a Safeway family. So I thought of it as the better grocery store. And, retrospect, going back and looking at it, maybe it wasn't. But anyway, we go to Safeway and my mom would give us a snack. So let's say she bought something, Cheez-Its or something. We didn't buy food out of a box that often, but she would buy something and she would hand it to us and we could eat it in the store. And then she would hand the wrapper to the checkout person and they'd ring it up with just the wrapper. That was normal for our family. The store didn't care. And I thought that was normal behavior. I don't do it anymore as an adult, but I did when my kids were little. So we would go to Kmart and I'd put my kids in the cart. Some might be walking, some might be in the cart. And I had 6 kids, not all the time were they all going to the store. In fact, when I had more kids, I left the younger ones home with the older ones more often than not, or with my husband. But anyway, back to this, taking the little kids in the cart. We'd head straight to the potato chip aisle, buy a couple cans of Pringles. I'd open up the Pringles and just hand them Pringles the whole time we were in the store. I'd buy what I needed to buy. We didn't have Target back then, so it was, laundry soap or whatever. We didn't have the internet ordering. I'd buy all those things. They were happy as can be. Their Kmart experience was very positive, and we'd make our way out of there. I also had a grocery store routine when my oldest daughter was 2. Yeah, because I was pregnant. So she was almost 2. But I had a routine that I'd walk in and they had fruit leather in the produce aisle. And it was the big round one. It was hard to open and stuff, but it was really big. It was a lot different than the fruit leather now. And I would buy the fruit leather, open it up, and the apricot, my goodness, the apricot was so good. I'd open the apricot and you'd have to tear it because it was big. They didn't even have fruit snacks back then, I don't think. Maybe they did, but I bought the fruit leather. I opened the fruit leather, give her bits and bits and bits, and she would eat it while we go shopping. And then about halfway through the store, when she was finished with the fruit leather, I had a miniature shopping cart that I brought with me. I don't even know where I put it. This is a big cart. And I would take it out and she'd push along with me. That was part of it. I don't know if we did that all the time, but I did something to make it fun for her, for me, and it was very doable. And it was a positive experience, so much that I feel really good inside right now, just reliving it. But there are ways to teach our brains that things are a more positive experience, even if it's a rut like experience, like grocery shopping or doing dishes. One thing is watching a movie, or for me, I've mentioned it before, I used to watch Little House on the Prairie on DVD on a little Sony portable DVD player. Whenever I'd do the dishes, I'd just watch another episode. I'd seen them all before, but getting to see them there in the kitchen doing dishes was really, really fun. And I just kept buying another season until I got to where I don't like the later seasons as much. So at some point I stopped watching. But the idea was it became a really pleasant experience because I made it that way. And you can do that if you're finding yourself in a rut in your own home, in your job, in your drive to work, in your drive to taking the kids to school. You start playing Christmas music or you start doing those things. Then later in life, when you hear that music, it'll remind you of that time because it won't last forever and it'll be fun. But when you need to make yourself happier, whether it's partnering uh, an activity with something to make it happier, where do you go in your own brain? Do you have a method? Do you have a tool to help yourself out of that kind of a slump of I'm going downhill? I'm going downhill emotionally. I can sense it in my brain. I'm feeling like life is drudgery. When that's happening, sorry that I can't always talk. But when that's happening, what do you do? Do you have any thoughts that you bring up? Do you have any things that you do? Do you have candles? Did you just buy the Bath and Body Works $10 3-wick candles or candle days at Bath and Body Works the last few days? Do you have a candle that you can light and just think, I'm going to make this room smell a little better, or I'm just going to see the flame? Maybe I don't like the fragrance, but I like to just see a flame and a little flickering. Or can I just smile? Just smile. Whether you look in the mirror and see yourself or just do it. Sometimes I just, bring that smile out wide and just laugh at myself like, hey, you're sliding down again. Bring yourself up. It's not that I think every problem has gone away, but it does help me quite a bit. Or just noticing what thoughts might be taking you down. If there are actual thoughts doing it, feeling like, I can't believe it's another day. I didn't wake up early enough. If you start beating yourself down from the beginning of the day, I slept in, I forgot this, I ba 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 ba. If you're giving yourself those messages, turn it around. Give yourself supportive messages. See yourself as the friend that you know you have somewhere in life, whether it's now where you used to live, whether you're still in touch or not. Find that friend voice of somebody you know, or make up your own and make it more supportive and help yourself out of that mode, that mood, whatever it is. And just see how it works for you. And on the flip side, if you actually notice some sabotaging thoughts coming in, something that's diminishing your worth, stop it in your tracks. Identify it. The more you identify it, the more you'll notice it when it's happening, and the more you can get rid of those thoughts and stop them from coming in. Just tell them they're not welcome in your brain anymore. It is possible. I hosted a party last week, a favorite things party, and I can tell you about it if you want to hear about it. I know a lot of people do them, but I'm learning that not everybody does. But I hosted this favorite things party, and I've noticed a pattern in my brain, especially when two of my daughters got married. And when they got married, the day after or the night after or in the middle of the night after, the reception, the wedding day, everything, every thought that could come into my mind of what didn't go right came into my brain of, oh no, I can't believe you didn't do this. And honestly, now that I have ADHD, I'm surprised that I did everything as well as I did. And a lot of the things that didn't go well were not within my control. But when you want things to be perfect, when you plan for so long for a certain day, and you go through all the measures and all the thoughts and all the planning and all the coordinating and all the pressure you might put on yourself or the fun that you're having, putting something on a big event like that, and it doesn't all go as planned, yes, that's part of life, but we can still feel disappointed by it. But should we let it take over and just go through a loop of regret? No, no, the answer is no, of course. And so with my favorite things party last week, it was kind of funny because, it was a quick switch. It was Thanksgiving. Oh, and I have to let you know, I mentioned before how Thanksgiving dinner stressed me out the past few years because I've never been the one that wanted to cook a big dinner. Well, okay, that's not true. I used to like doing that, but I mean, since I got married and I've been attending big dinners, like the big Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas are the big dinners that I can think of. I've actually never been in charge of those until the past maybe 5, 10 years. And even then, there were times that we go to other people's houses. So I much prefer for somebody else to do that because I feel a great weight that it needs to be a certain way. And I can't relax. I can't enjoy myself as much. So last year were a few disastrous moments. I mentioned before, kind of huddling in a corner and sitting down on the floor and giving myself a little pause. And then afterwards, going a little crazy and jumping in a freezing pool and swimming across our pool and coming back. Just kind of like, I don't know why. It was just an impulse. And I do have that impulsive part of ADHD for sure. But I just thought, I just knew it would reset me, and it did. And it was kind of fun. But it was also kind of insane. But this year, it wasn't like that. I ordered the turkey from Texas. It's this company called Greenberg, Texas. I don't have any affiliation with them, but if they have affiliate links, I'd be happy to get one and make money off of referring you. But they send you the turkey. It's already cooked. All you do is let it sit on the counter. It was so good. And my daughter came down from Virginia. She helped cook some things. My other daughter helped cook some things. Everything was so good. It was so good. And I said to everyone, and I don't even know if they agreed, and it didn't even matter to me, that I said, this is the best. Like, it was the most delicious Thanksgiving dinner in my mind and taste buds, my memory, that I've ever had. It was so good. I don't usually feel that way. I usually feel pretty critical, but that went really well. And I'm sure afterwards there are probably a few things that I thought, oh, you forgot to get this out. But with my favorite things party, I saved ice. So I have an automatic ice maker. It has a regular size, not full size ice, and then a kind of a crushed ice. It goes into two different drawers or compartments of a drawer. And I also, when I started teaching hot yoga, it didn't make ice fast enough for how much I needed on my back to back hot yoga class. So, because I just had to hydrate so much and make smoothies and all this stuff. So, I bought a few silicone trays for making ice, and one has little flower shapes, and they're so cute. And the other one has really big pieces of ice. And that was really good because for hot yoga, those wouldn't melt in the hot yoga room as easily. So, I decided before this party to learn to make infused water recipes. Like I know there's cucumber and stuff too. I just did fruit. So I made orange water, I made a lemon blueberry, a lemon, and a blueberry pomegranate. The best was the orange by far. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I even bought a giant thing, container for it and stuff. It was so good. But in my mind, I thought, okay, this big container of the orange water, I'm going to need to put some ice in there. And wouldn't it be cute if I had tons of the flower ice? Well, if I put lots of flower ice in either of the compartments where the automatic ice comes in, it won't keep making that ice because it needs it to be empty on one end. So I got a little container, and for a couple weeks, I would make those, it's like 8 or 10 pieces of flower ice and put it into a container and then eventually put it in a gallon size Ziploc bag. So I had tons of it. I forgot about the ice. I didn't use that. I didn't use that in the water. And I didn't fill the orange water super high. And when it got down low, I replenished it a little bit, but it was low again. So in my mind, you never let anything get low. Like it should always be available that if somebody walks up, they're just like, oh, good, there's more orange water. Oh, good. Like I want it to just be like this never ending spring of orange water coming from my kitchen. But I got distracted. I was talking to people, I was having fun, and I didn't restock it. And so at the end, it was just there with the oranges. And I thought, oh, and I didn't even realize till the next day that I forgot about the flower ice and the extra big eyes, but which I don't know if I would have used anyway. But yeah. And there were a few other things like the bathroom that people use the most. I was going to refill this hand soap and didn't. And it was empty at the end. Did anybody go in there and not have enough hand soap? But I mean, everyone's resourceful. I'm sure they could have opened it up, added water, shipping it up, used it. They probably had enough. And I had hand sanitizer in there. But I did have those thoughts the next day of, oh. And each of those, like I just said this time, like, did it really matter? Did anybody miss the flower ice? No, because they didn't know it was going to happen. Only I missed, and I didn't even miss it because I didn't remember that night. But I made this pomegranate salad. I went to the grocery store, made sure I bought everything. I wasn't sure if I had pecans at home. So I spent $8 on a little bag of pecans because I didn't have time to go to Trader Joe's and they're probably cheaper there. But I spent $8 on this little bag of fresh raw pecans. I made the salad. It took up a lot of my time on the day of the party that I could have been, adding more ornaments to my Christmas tree. It wasn't fully decorated yet. Well, I didn't say yet because it's still not. It's probably only 1/3 of the ornaments are up. But I did enough. I covered the tree enough that most people wouldn't know the difference because I put a lot of ornaments on my tree. I'm one who has a lot of the favorite ones over the years. But anyway, so I took away from some of my tree decorating time and getting dressed time because I wasn't dressed when the first guest got here. I was still in my yoga clothes, and she showed up a little early, but I was fine. But Anyway, um, I made the pomegranate salad. I like to open the pomegranate. I have my method. I did it all by hand and I used 2 pomegranates. So it took a while, but it was methodical. It was relaxing. It was fine. It wasn't until the middle of the night, that night, when I woke up to go to the bathroom that I thought, you forgot to put the pecans in the salad. No one noticed, even a woman who loves the salad enough that she asked for my recipe at Thanksgiving. She wrote to me and said, I'm in Wyoming for Thanksgiving. Can I get your pomegranate salad recipe? And honestly, that's what made me remember that I'd made it the year before and I should make it again. I kind of forgot it. Did I make that before my favorite things party? But I forgot to put the pecans in. And it was still good, but it wasn't that last amazing touch. And I wrote to her and I said, I can't believe it. Because she commented on it that night, like, okay, I made it at Thanksgiving, but yours is so much better. And I texted her and said, I totally forgot the pecans. She said, I didn't even notice. And I said, neither did I. But at the same time, I was somewhat, starting to go into a negative mindset of, I can't believe you did that. You even spent $8. You didn't have to spend that $8 on the pecans. And what stopped me in that spiral of thinking and getting down and starting to get absorbed in some negativity was telling myself, and sometimes I do this, I live in a little fairyland, but I said maybe somebody was allergic to nuts and couldn't have eaten the salad if you put nuts in it. Maybe, so I was kind of making up stories like that, and that brought me to a happy place. I don't know if anyone's allergic to nuts. I do know of a woman whose sons are, so I don't know. But there were 30 people there, and I don't know all of them that well, honestly. But yeah, make up a story in your mind if it helps it get into a better place. You probably at this point of your life have some little tricks. Notice what they are, whether it's to keep yourself up a little bit or to get yourself going, to help yourself believe in something. All of that will help. It'll help your day to day. And I think that's it for today. I have a really great next episode. I hesitate to tell you because honestly, you know me, I get locked into it and then I want to change my mind. But this one I'm excited about. I didn't feel prepared to do it quite yet, but I'll do it for my next episode. But it's kind of in the same idea of getting into a rut or something. But instead of the rut of your own thoughts, that your own thoughts bringing you there, and it may not be a rut, but like I think of a rut. Well, okay, a rut may be like you go into that rut and you can't get out. That's what it is with a car. But now I'm thinking of like more like you've gone into a ditch, so the ditch is more of the negative thoughts, and you could be stuck there. It could be a rut. But the long-term rut is when you're driving, you can't get out. And that's more kind of this autopilot thing of, wait, what am I doing over here? And I've been studying this a little bit and reading from different experts on ADHD, and am learning that autopilot for an ADHD brain is more of a survival mode, where an autopilot for somebody who's neurotypical, it's more of a calming thing. For us, it can be chaotic. It can kind of be, I don't know, I shouldn't try to even tell you a little bit about it because it's really hard to say a little bit without saying a lot. But my next episode is going to be exploring this whole idea that we can spiral, not just emotionally, but we can spiral away from productivity. And you may see this happen every day of your life. I do, like when like I said, I shouldn't talk about it too much, or I can't get deep enough. But when you're avoiding doing something, it's not an autopilot of productivity. It's more of a going away from that. And I'll just leave it there. I'm not very good at selling this, am I? Not that I need to sell it, but I'm excited about it, about stopping this spiral that can happen that's kind of taking you, and then all of a sudden you're like, how did I end up here? And now I'm in this rut. But it's more of something that overall happens instead of just finding a thought that's causing it. Does that make sense? It's like noticing a rut before you get stuck there. But a lot of times we are stuck there and we can get ourselves out. Yeah, next episode's going to be long because just even trying to explain it's long. But it's fascinating. It's really fascinating because I thought that autopilot was like kind of like a calmness, a groove. It's efficient. We're going. It is for some people. But ADHD is a real thing. And there are things that our brains can't do the same way as neurotypical people. And so we go into an autopilot as an escape from the exhaustion that we get from trying to have executive function properly. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. I don't know if you follow me there. I know I don't post there very much. There are very few and far between posts, but you're welcome to DM me there or go to my website and send me an email or something. But you can go to YouTube too and make a comment there. But thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to be talking to you again. I will be back with this next episode. And I'm excited enough about it that it will be what I'm saying it's going to be about. I don't want to give empty promises. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited. This was in one take. Sometimes I make some weird mistake. I mean, I've made mistakes, but enough that I have to stop and pause. And it's just a lot clunkier and it messes with my brain. My executive function suffers because of it. But thank you. I hope the sound picked up because you never know. Thanks so much for being here. I'll be back again. Bye.